Hi, I'm Julie Halston. I play Rita Marshall in the Broadway musical Tootsie, and these are my memories and mishaps. The weirdest thing that happened recently on Broadway, of course, was the Con Edison power outage, and we were all just getting ready. I was in my dressing room, you know, yakking it up with my colleagues, and then boom, the lights went out. And I happen to love, you know, catastrophes in a sense. So we were all sort of running around, but we all gathered in Santino's dressing room, and we thought, oh, this will be, you know, solved in like 10 minutes. And it wasn't. I think we just stayed in his room and drank wine, to be honest. If anyone saw that show, and many people did, I played a drunk who ended up climbing the stairs of the incredible David Rockwell set, and I had to do this rather dirty, sly limerick while I was doing it. And this is one of my favorite stories, and this is why I love Scott Ellis so much. I was really having trouble figuring out what I was going to do to climb that staircase, because it was a fairly short limerick. And Scott came up to me and he said, I'm going to give you a night in front of an audience during previews where you can figure it out on your own what you want to do. I went back to the text, and the text basically says that Gay Wellington drinks a bottle of gin by herself. Now, I don't know about you, but if I drank a bottle of gin by myself, I would not be able to walk or speak very clearly. I crawled to the stairs, because when you're that drunk, you don't walk, you crawl. And the audience started laughing so hard, and then I looked up, and I never realized how high that staircase is. And for that 1 second, I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. This will never work. And I looked down and I saw James Earl Jones and Rose Byrne and Reg Rogers dying with laughter. It just brought the house down, which was really amazing. And all of a sudden I hear Scott, after I came off, boom, 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 climbing up my stairs to the dressing room. He goes, you're gonna do that every night. And we did. It's one of my favorite Charles Busch plays. There's a line in the show where he says, sister, what is it you can't face? And I say, did you just call me cunt face? One night, it was a fairly quiet house, which was very unusual because it's in a hysterical play. A woman stood up in our audience and screamed, no, no. I ran off. I was laughing so hard that I could barely run around to get to the next scene, and I was holding my stomach. And at one point, I know Jennifer Van Dyke, another one of our cohorts in the play, I heard her backstage going, Halston's lost it! Halston's lost it! I don't know if she's gonna make it on stage. But I did. But that was really rough. One of my favorite Broadway moments was Rue McClanahan in The Women. We did that at the Roundabout. And in between shows on a Wednesday, Rue decided to take a Sudafed. She was out. I mean, out. We could barely wake her. And she had to go on. And her dresser was going, Rue! Rue, you're on! You're on! She got up, and Rue was a very savvy performer. Like, she would go on for her entrance every night, and she would just stand there and wait for the audience to applaud her, which was hilarious because we were in the middle of a scene. She was so nutty that day, she kind of stumbled out on the stage and she was like, yoo-hoo, hello. And we were so shocked because she didn't stand there and wait for applause, but she was a little slurry. And I thought, is she drunk? What's going on? She took 2 Sudafed. We were like, we banned Sudafed from the dressing room. We were like, Rue, I don't care if you have allergies, no more Sudafed. One time I was playing the female authority figure, and I came in and I was like the cop or something. and I had a big helmet on, and the sign over the door fell on my head. It must have been like during Big Dollhouse or something, and Kevin Meaney, who was the male figure authority, he just looked at me and I just went, and then I went on. I was so terrified to do, we used to call it, dare I say a politically incorrect term now, the Gypsy run, where we would invite the Broadway community. It's basically your dress rehearsal. They don't do a lot of them anymore. And all of the Broadway community came out. And I almost was reliving what Gypsy was all about. I had never really done musicals before. I was terrified. So when it came our turn to go out to do Gotta Have a Gimmick, Peter Lawrence, our incredible stage manager, I stood there and I got such stage fright, I couldn't move. I literally could not move. And Peter Lawrence had to push me out on the stage. And he was like, Halston, get out there. And it was like we were reliving the show of Gypsy. You know, kind of like, you know, Louise, get out there. Dip, dip. But once I got out there and I heard the Broadway community, the roar of approval, well, you know, Broadway babies, you know, we kick in. There's a great scene where Kitty, the Countess de Borgia, which is the role I was playing, is murdered. It's a great scene because I swing out and Charles Busch, playing, you know, Gertrude Garnet, discovers me and I'm hanging in a very grotesque manner. And I'm swinging and swinging and swinging. And we didn't know how to do this on the stage. Our budgets were very small. It wasn't like they could put me in some sort of big harness. I stood on a milk carton. They built a little hook and handle on a flat, and I put an arm brace right here, and I literally had to throw myself out, and with kind of gravity and forward movement, I had to keep myself swinging by myself the entire time. And I think I developed hematomas in my arm. Dolores Gray, an old MGM movie star, and I did an off-Broadway show called Money Talks. It was a moose murder situation. It's the worst play in the world. It only ran 5 performances. People who have seen it still come up to me on the street and say, you don't know me, but I saw you in Money Talks. Dolores Gray, let's put it this way, diplomatically, liked to have champagne any hour of the day or night. Our first preview, I played her daughter, CLAUDIA. Dolores was insecure, to say the least. Came up to me during the show, our first entrance, and said, "Hi, Carla." Then she looks at me and I said something like, "Mother, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing today? Or are we doing this?" I forgot what the line was. And she literally said this to me on stage, "Julie, I love your earrings." Here's my favorite moment. Dolores Gray played a character named Phyllis. She had a best friend off stage named Sylvia. Every time the phone rang, she was supposed to pick up the phone and say, "Hello, Sylvia, what's going on today?" Dolores could never find the phone. It was right in front of her on a desk, but she could never find it. And she would always look around. And we would be off stage going, "The desk! It's on the desk!" And she would pick up the phone, inevitably, and instead of saying, "Hello, Sylvia, what's going on today?" she would say, "Hello, Phyllis." And one night, Helen Ham, a great character actress, walked on stage and said, "You're Phyllis! You can't be calling yourself!"